Prom Night, 1980. This slasher movie follows a relentless killer who is out to avenge the death of a young girl who died after being bullied and teased by 4 of her classmates. Now high school students, the guilt-ridden kids, have kept their involvement a secret, but when they start being murdered one by one, it's clear that someone knows the truth.
Hello, I am Blaine, and I am doing shots of Merlot because I am the biggest wimp you have ever met. And that's where I'm at in
Never.
quarantine.
That's not even true. Hello, I'm Stephanie, and I was on a podcast last week called Glow Up Gals, and I'm shocked that anybody wanted to hear me talk outside of you guys. Okay. But it was really interesting, and I got to talk to the hosts, Kara and Jessica, about some really cool stuff and struggles and, you know, mental health and sexual well-being, and it's a really cool podcast, so you can find it on all podcast platforms.
I'm Emily. I am drinking Blue Moon because that's what the pizza shop near me had. And I thought my cat was dying, but it turns out she just has a faulty water bowl. So
I've never been happier to know that a carpet is the suspect.
Is ruined. Yeah.
I've never been happier to know that a cat's not dying.
So here's my first bone to pick with this movie.
Yay.
Go,
Let's
bones.
hop in. So if you look at the like IMDb facts, you know how they have like general trivia. It's like this movie is famous for being one of the only slasher films with a sympathetic killer. And I was like,
I hate those facts.
That's not true at all.
You haven't watched movies.
Right. Carrie, first of all.
Yeah, that's not real.
Just like a worse version of. And then Friday the 13th Part 1 is literally a grieving mother.
Yeah. Like
trying to avenge her child. Like it's the same fucking shit and it came out the same year. Like that, like what? Who?
It is that this movie is Carrie meets fucking Saturday Night Fever. That's what this movie is.
I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, and exactly
meets Grease.
But I want to say that if ever we play hide and seek, I only want to play it as the hide and seek killer reboot.
Right? Oh my god, yes.
So fun.
Am I the only one who didn't realize that this was a convent that they're in? I thought it was a school.
Oh,
Wikipedia says that it's a convent.
Okay.
So
I thought it was a school for sure. I thought
so too. It just looked like a school.
It did.
But it's shown to be abandoned, and these kids are playing a modified version of hide and seek with the killers being it, and it's fucking creepy. They do a really good job of setting up this just like fucking creepy.
The kids act really well. I think they do. They really are super convincing in the way they're like screaming, and it's like they're possessed. They're like kill.
Yeah, they're better than the adult actors in this.
Oh my god, yeah,
far
just
better.
Do all the kid version of this.
I do think that they could have done a little bit better of a job distinguishing between Wendy and Jude.
Agreed.
Yes.
Because they were dressed very similar, and their characters grow up to, or they're very different people. So like. Kelly is looks like a little Mennonite girl. Like you can definitely tell who he is. Nick is the lone male.
Yep.
And then you have Jude and Wendy who look very similar and like speak very similar. But Wendy seems to be like the ringleader.
The Regina George,
yeah. She is. I literally have that. She is the Regina George of this film for show.
Yes. So like I wrote to myself like a quick reference guide of the young characters that I could like match them up. Mm-hmm. So the matching kids are Alex. So Alex and Robin Hammonds are like wearing matching sailor fucking striped.
Yes. I caught that in the beginning, and I should have considered that was foreshadowing.
Well, they're twins. It was in a deleted scene
that
Alex
too.
and Robin are twins. But they do mention, like, while walking later in the movie, Kim is like, oh, my sister would have been a junior, and they reference Alex being a junior.
Yeah.
So they kind of let you surmise that they're twins. But they should have made it more outright. But they were like, and twins of, like, fraternal twins that are younger, there's often a big height discrepancy, but I wish they would have not done that to make it more clear.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that part of it's like, why did they even bother getting rid of that concept? Like, it would have done nothing but enrich the plot. But
there are a lot of points in this movie that were taken out for just loose ends, but like that would have really done a lot to move the movie forward or to give it an extra boost or volume or whatever. I'm thinking of fucking dry shampoo.
Right. I'm here for it. Yep.
But
My guess is that they took it out because then it would be too easy to guess the ending.
Yeah.
That's true, but also, like, I did not like, knowing that they had a lot of stuff taken out, I didn't like the murderer add-in, which was added last minute as well.
Oh my god, so lame.
Well, but so they're playing this hide and seek game, and they are the little girl Robin goes in, but Alex and Kim don't come in. They end up leaving.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes in. They're playing hide and seek, and they corner her in an upper level of the building. And they're like, you know, if you're playing hide and seek, they've caught her. So they've already seen her. They've caught her. So this weird, like, it's just so, it has to be this way for her to fall out of the window, which she does, and she dies. From what you can anticipate, maybe she didn't die, but they didn't do anything. And immediately these kids go into, we're going to go to kid jail if we tell anybody. So we can't fucking say shit. So they say, you can't tell anybody. We're going to go to kid jail. And they're like, fine, we don't want to go. And they swear they'll never tell. And they leave.
So can I ask a question here? So when she falls onto like something fucking like glass.
A window.
And they assume that she's dead. But then after they make the pact to not tell anyone, then the window falls. And that's what kills her. So is the idea that if they had just run down to her aid, that she could have survived?
Probably.
I don't know. And I also thought that maybe there was like a hint that maybe like Wendy or somebody else just like decided, oh, here's a loose end, and just like pushed it to fall on her.
Yeah, right, this was another
that's a stretch, but
I think the whole point is that I agree with you. I think the point is that in them not only not having taken any action, but the fact that then the other thing fell on top of her, they sealed her fate by their inaction.
Well, and it frustrates me because it's literally the impetus for the entire movie, and they leave it very ambiguous.
Right.
Like, if it's gonna
think, oh god,
that's my problem with the movie Fargo. So like,
Fargo though.
Fargo is the one movie that's like critically acclaimed that I hate because the impetus isn't clear. I need to know why I give a fuck. Like, why is he borrowing?
I love that. I love everything about it though. But I love that.
Oh, and I get it. Like, I get why that has an appeal to it, but I'm very shallow, and I'm like,
no, you're not.
Me.
No.
Well, in terms of plot, I'd like to know. You know what I mean? Like, I just, if I'm going to go on a 2-hour-long ride or an hour and a half long ride, tell me why.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah, agreed.
That, from the get-go, this movie pissed me off because I was like, okay, so, like, are they responsible for her death? Like, are they not? But, like, as she's lying there right after she dies, a big shadow crosses her body. So you know that there was a witness.
Yeah.
And I want to say that as the opening credits go on, Leslie Nielsen is the first person credited in this film. And they did that. He's not even in the movie much, but they did it because he's a bigger name. And this was before Airplane. So this was like, he wasn't yet at the Naked Gun phase because the next scene, it's night. He is, clearly he's the father. He's upstairs and he's having like an internal monologue. And I imagine that he's going to pull out a banana gun or run into a building a la Naked Gun style.
Like, as millennial kids watching this, like, after Airplane, after all of his Naked Gun bullshit, like, I was like, that guy looks like Leslie Nielsen. No, Leslie Nielsen. What the fuck? Like, I was so thrown.
So and I mean, Leslie Nielsen's played, like, Clarence Darrow before.
Yeah.
So this is the other thing that confused me, though. So, like, he's having this internal monologue that's, like, probably the victim of a sexual attack. She must have resisted. We think we know who's responsible. He's subtitled as the police officer. Is he not the dad, though?
No, he's the dad.
The police officer is Lieutenant McBride. Why is George?
No, he's the dad.
Why is George not the one? Like, why is he having that monologue and not Lieutenant McBride?
Well, maybe it's because they told him that.
So someone saw Robin die, and someone went to get Leslie Nielsen, and so that's why he was the first to discover her, and that's why he is running through the motions as the father. Also, and I think it was just a fucking glitch that he was labeled as the cop.
The subtitles are wrong a lot in this movie. We'll get to that.
Well, also, I just want to ask a general question that if anybody had issue with this. Now, we go in order, so we're not going to get to the end of the movie, but in the sense of at this point right now, if the brother and the sister, Alex and Kim, left their sister Robin with the idea that they know the children in this building, how did no one question them? So that was a big problem for me.
And also, like, why? Because at the point where Leslie Nielsen's like doing the whole like probably the victim of a sexual attack, which like P.S. there's ways that you could check that.
Yeah, and also like you wouldn't fall. I don't know. That's stupid.
Right. Even in like 1974, whenever this happened, like there are ways to check that. Very obvious.
11. There would have been a lot of evidence.
They're like they left like a receipt for like a spaghetti dinner on her.
Right. Like, it's just fucking crazy. So he's like, we think you know who's responsible. Pick him up for questioning. And then, like, why did they let the mom and the siblings watch her little body get carried away?
Yeah, and the mom's
not a family affair.
And the mom's crying is real bad.
Woof. Woof.
It's like, oh my God, I wanted to smack her.
I literally wrote woof in my notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
And then the first time I watched it, I glanced down and I missed the transitional mention. So I just was like, there's no fucking transition.
We cut to Robin's grave. Robin Ann Hammond, 1964 to 1974, so she's 10. And then the caption, too soon taken from us. And her mom is laying flowers at the grave. And then
Is that grammatically correct?
Too soon taken from us?
Yeah, it's very old, but it's...
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Blaine, for
being Thank you, Dr. Blaine.
Because
I still thought that the dad was the policeman, so I was like, why the fuck is he at the grave?
Right?
And then I was like, oh, it's the dad. And then Jamie Lee Curtis / Kim they're like all there crying at the grave because it is the 6-year anniversary.
She is a knockout.
Knockout. Oh my
God.
Chiseled.
Knockout.
Chiseled.
And actually, fun fact, again, in this fucking Halloween Unmasked, I'm so sorry, but what they actually talked about, it was Jamie Lee talking about it, was that she was having real trouble because Halloween was 76, so 78. So she had been for 2 years, was not able to get any jobs. And what happened was she had her agent, she got taken, someone took a photo of her like in a sexy outfit because she wasn't considered sexy.
I remember those photos.
And so they put those out. Her agents put those out, and then she got the fog. She got this. She got Terror Train. All from that. So she actually said in that interview, she's like, my natural assets were the things that got me the job. And I was like, you know what? Own it. You got nice tits.
Yeah, good for her.
On that note, I have an aunt that looks just like her.
Oh, shit.
We're going to need to see photos.
Oh, my God. It's crazy.
Just of her tits.
It's actually Doug's aunt.
Okay, get Doug's aunt naked.
She would. She'd be into it. She even has, like, short blonde pixie cut now, which Jamie Lee Curtis also has. But she's a fucking dead ringer, and she's around the same age, too. So whenever Doug and I watch a movie with Jamie Lee Curtis in it, which is pretty often, we're just like, Aunt Jeannie, no! Aunt Jeannie's behind you! Aunt Jeannie, no!
And of course it's a similar name to Jamie. Jamie and Gina?
Yeah. Everyone in her high school called her Jamie Lee Curtis. Like,
not a bad gig.
Her whole life. Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
And also, is the Alexander Hamilton High School, is that in any other horror film a similar name? I felt like that was something that some other horror movie took from this movie.
I'm not sure, but
I don't know if it was Scream. Scream took it from something else, but
I mean that would shock me if Scream took it from that.
But then this is where they go to the school, and so Alex and Kim, Jamie Lee, and Dad go to the school, and you figure out Dad's the principal of Alexander Hamilton High School.
Let's take a pause here because I want to dive into this. So they park, and it is very clear that they are parking in 15-minute parking only.
Yep. No shit.
And as they're walking into the school, they come across the groundskeeper. His name is Mr. Sykes. And Jamie Lee Curtis makes a comment about him being creepy. And, of course, Leslie Nielsen's first reaction is to be like, he's been working here for such and such. Like, there's nothing wrong with him, and it's all you. And she's like, no, I've heard that he, like, peeks in on the locker rooms. And he's like,
Okay, if you got Jamie Lee Curtis, you wouldn't. Okay? I would. Just kidding. That's weird.
Well, I literally wrote my notes. Can we talk about how quickly the dad dismisses Kim's concern about Mr. Sykes? She straight up is like, Dad, I'm afraid of this adult man, and here are some allegations. And he's like, hush, hush, it's fine. Keep moving.
Everything about this movie is so 80s in the sense that there is no respect for any part of a woman's body / anything.
I wrote down I want to say at least 6 times.
And I want to say that the actor that played Mr. Sykes, apparently the tape on the glasses was actually like an accident. It wasn't something. It was something that he did because he had to do it, and it became like an interesting part of his character, like this dorky looking creepy guy with his tongue out like a pug.
So he was actually recovering from a terrible car accident where he got brain damage.
Yeah.
He was like in the midst of speech therapy. So, like, super fucked up that they make him like a creep because he has brain damage.
Wow.
But I also think that is very indicative of the 80s. Yes, I feel like that's a thing. 80s. Every time, even in the 90s, like, you guys probably had that guy in town who everyone was afraid of, and then you just find out later, like, oh no, he was like hit by a horse or something. Hit by punched in the face by a horse.
Oh my God.
Guy was literally
the Family Guy montage that just went through my mind when you said that.
Right?
Damn.
But yeah, so fucked up. But he seemed on board with it because it was his idea, the glasses or the tape on the glasses. So like he seems cool with it.
I like that also. You know what? If he's an actor with brain damage, let's give him a job. Let's give him a fucking job. He needs that money.
All the jobs.
And so we start on this track of immediately. Now, is her name June or Jude?
Jude, as in hey.
Jude. Okay, Jude. So Jude is the first one to get a creepy phone call. And we switch over to her house, and she gets a creepy phone call. And she kind of dismisses it. The phone call is like, hey, are you ready to go to prom tonight? And she's like, I have a date, motherfucker.
That's really good stuff.
Oh my God, thank you. That's how I call everybody else but you guys. I'm like, hey, my gas bill is high.
Girl, it is.
So she is walking down the street to go to school, and this guy rolls up in what I have affectionately termed the fuck truck.
Oh yeah.
And he like talks to her for 3 seconds and persuades her to get in his fuck truck, and he drives her to school. And I was just like, okay, that's the 80s.
Stranger danger. This guy rolls up in a creepy van. He looks like Elvis in the wrong time of his life.
Yes. He looks like Fat Elvis.
His name is
Fat
Seymour.
Jewish Elvis. That's what I wrote.
Yeah. His name is Seymour, and you're like, cool, I'm just going to high school.
So this was the first time that I wrote fuck the 80s for real in my notes. I wrote Seymour Crane, a.k.a. Slick, a.k.a. Fat Jewish Elvis.
Yes.
Tries to pick up Jude in his creep van. She gets in. Baby, no.
Also, now I remember, this is how the Green River Killer was so successful. Stop getting in cars. Emily, I know you picked up a hitchhiker.
It was 2011. I didn't know. I knew really well.
Well, and then the next person who gets a call is Kelly, and also she is beautiful.
Oh, her outfit.
I feel like we would all wear that outfit.
Yes,
we would. It was a pencil skirt and a sort of like a pinker polka dot pussy bow.
She looks like, I said, why the fuck is a high school senior dressed like a 37-year-old stenographer, but I'm here for it.
They're wearing like blazers and shit in this movie.
Blazers.
It's weird.
And
like that's not.
She's freaked out. Like she's terrified, but Drew's like, I don't give a shit. How can I use this to get laid?
Yeah, her boyfriend's there.
Yeah.
So her boyfriend's there, and she thinks he's the one who called in again. It was like, hey, bitch, we going to prom night? And I sound like Cartman, with trying to do that. And so the killer, we span over to the killer, and he's got a list of 4 names. I'm like, you really need to make a list that has no phone numbers on it, just to cross out the name, but there's not a number. So this is
He's just a baby. Let him do what he needs to do to kill these people.
You've been planning this for 6 years, and you can't be like, Wendy, Nick, is it Nick?
Yeah, write it on your hand if you need to. God damn.
Or
just leave a paper trail.
Or just like maybe, I don't know, like what it reminded me of was in was it Billy Madison, where the character Steve Buscemi's character crosses the names off with lipstick like a fucking creep? Oh my god. That's his best. That's his crowning glory. Crowning glory.
Oh, yeah.
And then we see, this was kind of cool. You see the shadow of the killer in a scene. And it's interesting because later on it makes sense when you actually think about it later. It's totally that shadow is that person.
So they call Nick next. The phone rings and Nick doesn't answer. He says, "It's just Wendy. She wants me to take her to prom tonight." And it's revealed that he's taking Kim to the prom, which lays the ground for drama.
You are effectively going to the prom with someone whose sister you assisted in murdering.
Right.
Here's the thing. Also, I hated Nick the moment he shut that door when the phone was ringing. It was like, "It's just Wendy." No. I don't care if this woman has been calling you every 5 minutes. You don't just regard her as, "That's just one of my bitches." Mm-hmm. Whatever. She just wants my dick.
And his dad,
when he's so clearly leaning into it.
Oh yeah.
Yes, he loves it. It feeds his ego.
And his dad is the police lieutenant, because you opened that the dad's putting his fucking his gun in his pants, so to speak.
His put it in his ass. He's gonna shoot his fucking bumhole.
He put his hard gun in his ass.
Hope
That's
he does.
A title. And we learned that when the dad goes to the station, we learned that a local sex offender, Leonard Murch, had been arrested for the crime, and he had escaped the asylum. And he was like, they go over like this montage, and there's a lot of internal monologues in this movie, which is weird. And they go over this thing where basically he was like set on fire and disfigured, and then he escaped a mental asylum. And I'm like, what?
Casually.
And that's how I'm so angry at this portion of the fucking movie, because it's like, this does nothing for me. Like, this means nothing.
Let's gloss.
The only good thing about this part is that it actually is pretty indicative of how sexual assault cases are investigated, where they're like, probably that guy, we're done.
Well, and that's how most cases are, if nothing else. They want to pin it on someone, and the first person they find, or the person that makes the most sense to them, quote unquote, they just go with it and, murder, shoot.
Did you guys see the Atlanta child murders documentary on HBO?
Yes.
I mean, and I've known that story for a long time, but that's exactly this. Like, they're just like, well, you look like the good suspect and you're black, because this cannot be a white man or Atlanta will erupt.
They have this weird flashback showing this pursuit of Leonard. Is it Murch?
Yeah,
Murch. So he somehow turns into the Human Torch.
Yep.
While being chased by the police. And then they cut to him being in custody, and he looks like Jacques Souvenir, all wrapped up. And but his eyes are open, so he's clearly very aware of what's happening.
This is actually X-Men.
Right. So the police officers are debating over whether or not he killed Robin Hammond, and there's little evidence, probably because he didn't do it. So he's back. He's escaped, and he's back, and they're freaking the fuck out. And then cut back to present day, and they saved for the best for last. And by I mean the best, the fucking worst.
Yeah.
And it's Wendy's turn to get called. And she thinks it's going to be Nick. And she's like, and she does the thing that we've all done, where you I'm not going to answer right away. I'm going to make him wait.
Yep.
And she lets it ring.
Sometimes
gets this call, and again, it's like, hey, bitch. And then she is clearly
still like to play games.
Do you want to play a little game? And she is clearly, you can tell from the height of that side ponytail indicates to me the level of mean she is to anyone that's not white.
But...
Yeah.
And she
goes, "Get lost, Lou," and fucking hangs up.
Wait, because she thinks it's this bad
Lou,
boy
who she ends up going to fucking prom with.
Oh, and then she's so mean to her grandma.
Okay,
and
good.
It's interesting because you can kind of see each of these different people in their lifestyle with their family unit. Like, you get it with Kim, you get it with Alex, you get it with Nick, you get it with Wendy now, because you see that she's wealthy. She's driving this sick car. She's living with her grandmother.
What is that car?
I don't know, but it's fucking
I knew between the three of us that none of us would fucking know.
No.
It's a shame that we
No, I wish we did. And honestly, I could have looked it up, but I was just like, it's just a gorgeous car.
No.
I don't even know.
You try to look up anything about this goddamn movie.
Oh,
the
it's
whole
impossible.
Internet's like, oh no. Because you're like, okay, so like when this line was said, what's the interpretation? Any other goddamn movie in the history of time, including fucking Hobo with a Shotgun, they give you an answer. But this movie, the entire internet's like, yeah, that's weird. That's weird in this movie.
And here's the thing about this movie that it's a complete anomaly. It exists solely in itself, even though it continues to be a staple in slasher movies.
Which is not a slasher.
Which it did inspire in 1987. There was Hello Mary Lou Prom Night 2. And then there was in the 90s, there was a passable Prom Night 3, The Last Kiss. But then there was a 92. And then there was the remake that we considered, but we, thank God, did not actually go into.
Are you looking to spice up your foyer with a little something something? A little saying that makes everyone stare? Well, I just ordered a fun little sign from Skylab Letterpress in Kansas City, Missouri, off of Etsy. And wouldn't you know it, my inner Karen just sang when I got this live well, laugh often, hail Satan, embroidery looking beautiful sign. It is in my office right now, and I'm so excited for my in-laws to come over. Please check out Skylab Letterpress on Etsy. They have all the creepy things you want to print out. They have fun cards. The cardstock is beautiful. So again, that is Skylab Letterpress on Etsy. And remember, hail Satan.
I think the next scene, now we have talked about before that we're like, some of these movies we're watching are not the level of horniness we would expect. And this movie compensates for all of that because it's a festival. It's an Easter celebration of horniness.
It's high school. Everybody's fucking horny.
I would counter that with it's not necessarily horny. It is very rapey.
It's rapey. I would agree with you. No, I agree.
Yeah.
It's so the next scene is that exactly.
Brings us
we
to
get
Kelly.
Lou with his unibrow. And also, this is just the most unattractive man. He looks like the guy Andre the Giant. He looks like Andre the Giant.
He's missing like 7 to 10 teeth.
Oh yeah, and he has a unibrow. He goes up to Jamie and Jude and Kelly are walking in the hall, and he's behind her and he's hitting on Jamie and he grabs her ass and she says, "Go sit on it, ape." And and then Wendy kisses Nick in front of Kim just to make her see it, but Kim is too fucking
goodbye, lover.
She doesn't give a fuck. And I'm proud of
going to the prom with fucking Jewish Elvis over here. Like, how do you go from getting a ride in a van with a creep to being like, I'm probably gonna fuck him?
Oh like, yeah, right on it.
I feel like Jude was definitely the Karen of the group.
Yes, she could
where,
be better.
Like, she was constantly being left out and didn't realize her value or like her hotness, and like. Just kind of went with what she could get. Like, no first cousins here, just the guy on the road.
And honestly, she was actually, like, obviously, Jamie Lee is stunning. Kelly was beautiful. Wendy was, like, this fucking tight bitch. But, you know, I still think Jude was beautiful. I still think she had it. She just looked different. And that's the thing.
Jude
like,
is more my type.
Yeah.
Like, they're all beautiful, but, like, I would date Jude.
I think Jamie Lee is my ultimate in this one, for real, because she has that like awkward, almost nerdy, but still so hot, and it's weird.
But when she gets on the dance floor,
my God, I'm gonna sing about it. We're not even.
I was hot for Kelly.
Like, Kelly, stunning.
Oh, little Christian girl.
Stunning.
Doesn't know her beauty.
This is bad. Yeah.
Oh, and also then she's like saying, she's talking to them about how Drew her boyfriend wants them to fuck, and she's like, I don't want to do it, and she's like, well, maybe I'll do it, and
maybe I'll let him.
Yeah, maybe I'll let him, and I'm like, oh great, that's basically what sex was in the 80s. All sex in the 80s Does anyone remember at Fast Times at Ridgemont High the scene where the one girl loses her virginity in the dugout?
Yep.
That's what I feel like sex was in the 80s.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
Oh my god.
Just a guy jerking off in you for 3 seconds.
So
like
also,
if you lost your virginity in the 80s, we want to compensate you with $1 for a meal deal at Wendy's.
Yes. Do you have
vibrator,
mesothelioma or did you lose your virginity in the 80s? Call this number now.
Also, we get like a fresh body during all this. They're like back at the weird coven, and there's a fresh body, and the cop calls the coroner a meat wagon, which I just think is like a great moment.
That's a good name.
Meat wagon. There's a shard of glass on the ground, and they specifically say that is a potential murder weapon. And the doctor and the detective are like, you know what we should do about a murder? Keep it a secret.
Nope.
Don't tell anyone.
But like,
why?
I don't get it because
the cop who called the coroner a meat wagon also draws a stick figure of the body in his notebook. Like, if you look, I just happened to pause at the right moment, and it was just like a really little stick figure.
And you catch
how
solid gold.
Yep.
Yeah, well, and how sure can we be that that's not actual police work in our jurisdiction?
Yeah,
you know?
Honestly, at this point, probably. So Jamie Lee Curtis in the next scene, this movie is Disco Fever baby. She is in the gymnasium practice or auditorium, whatever the fuck, and she's practicing her 80s dance moves, and fucking Wendy comes out behind her and she's like, "What's up, bitch?" And
with then slow clap.
Slow clap. And then they're talking, and Wendy's basically bitter that Nick doesn't want to be with his murder friends anymore, and he wants to make friends with the people that are the family of the ones he murdered. Mm-hmm. So he this line is an IMDb fact, but the line that appears in all 4 of these Prom Night movies, the reboots, is when Kim / Jamie Lee Curtis is like, "Well, I'm going with Nick. Who are you going with?" And Wendy's words are, "It's not who you go with, honey. It's who takes you home." And that sentence is the worst thing I've ever heard.
Here's the fucking thing. So fucking Wendy is arguably, at the most 18 when she says that.
Right.
This bitch recites it as if she's been going to the same goddamn dive bar for 30 years. And it's like, it's not show up with this who you go home with.
Yeah, it's like, how much
like
dick
this has no place
your body
in a movie.
All of the dick.
Oh my god. And also it's like, it's not a big deal. Like, if you want to, like, you know, let your freak flag fly, but girl, maybe you keep it together a little and have some humble. Be a little humble. But
low key, though, I love this line. Low key, this was my favorite line of the goddamn film, because I'm gonna say that drunk in 2 years, and I'm gonna think that it was so slick, and then everyone's gonna be like, "Do you remember what a drunk idiot you were last night?" And I'll be like, "Nope." I love it.
You mean Stephanie and I?
Yeah, we're just gonna be like, Emily,
that's everybody in my life. That's the end of the list.
We're gonna be like, stop quoting Prom Night, Emily.
I'm like, what prom?
Can we have a discussion real quick offshoot, super quick? I never went to any dances ever.
I was queen.
You were? I knew it. Of course you were.
Yeah, well, not at my school, but
fuck you. Oh my god. God damn it.
I was kind of a cunt. I was prom queen at.
Were you a Wendy?
School's proms. I was not a Wendy. I was a Kelly with cuntiness added to it.
So you were
You're a Kelly with Wendy Rising.
Yes. Oh my god, yes.
I remember
took
that.
a DNA test, 100% that bitch. So I feel like I so get the amount of like that Jamie Lee Curtis is when she's like, I have to do this dumb prom queen thing.
But you know what's annoying, what's interesting is like we each come with different perspectives, and it makes us understand each of these movies in a different way. So like, Blaine, did you go to prom?
I went to the junior prom by myself, and then I didn't go to my senior prom, and I lied to my parents about going to like the prom and then after party, but really I just went to Hershey Park and made out with my boyfriend in the car.
Oh my god, that's better.
That's way better.
Yeah, it was so much more fun.
That's so much better.
I did not have a boyfriend until I met Travis. That was it.
What?
I told you guys I never dated anyone.
We're gonna need to counsel you after this.
I hung out with people. I did not want to date them, so I did what I wanted to do, and I was like, bye.
No, I was a serial monogamist. I still am. The guy that was my prom king, I was engaged to him.
I remember.
Oh, yeah.
And then I married Doug. Like, and I'm going to use these words, and I don't mean them in a negative way, and I hate that it has a negative connotation, but I am the funny fat friend. I don't think fat is a bad word. I hate that people think that that's a bad word.
You're not fat. But
I am.
But
I am though. Like I'm a curvy girl. I'm a plus size bitch,
I'm curvy
and
too.
I'm funny. But like I like the term funny fat friend. Like that's kind of who I am, and I like it, and I embrace that.
But it's so funny to me. But it's so funny to me because Emily, like, I don't. Well, and this is partly because if listeners haven't put this together already, I have a crush on Emily.
Right, we're soulmates. It's fine.
Yes, we're soulmates. That's it. So I don't see Emily as the funny fat friend. I see her as like the lead friend, and then like Stephanie's the funny friend, and then I'm like the Velma.
I definitely always feel like I did before, and I use humor in a way to like.
For our listeners, if any of this makes it in, I think that the one redeeming quality of this film is that it does beg you to put yourself in those archetypes.
Yes.
Like, we just had that whole conversation because the movie laid those in front of us.
Right.
And I will say that is the only redeeming quality of this film to me.
Right.
That it does beg you to take that trip down memory lane and indulge yourself in like, oh, which of these people am I?
It's a murdery Mean Girls.
It is a murdery Mean Girls. It really is.
Know, they intentionally use so many moments of this film are filled with the killer fucking looking at yearbook pictures and gently cutting them out and dark hallway shots. And it's very much, it reminds me of Frankenhooker in the way that it wastes time.
Oh my God, I hated it.
This movie did it more intentionally to attempt to create a sense of drama and like heightened
him dialing the phone in the beginning took 1,000 years just to fucking call. It's a road phone.
Oh my God,
they're like
it was
zooming in on the cord of the phone, which like if a kid, like a Gen Zer, they're like, what the fuck is this? They won't even know what that is. And then like the scene where he's pulling the yearbook photos out, which P.S. why is everyone's photo in the top right corner of the right page?
There's no way those last names are in alphabetical order.
No, that was lucky. Also, like, there are some similar last names. They should have been displayed together, but they weren't.
Yeah.
And it's just another one, and they used the same shot several times.
Yes, they did. They did.
I'm like, okay, I get that you shot this movie in like what 24 days, but like you have the yearbook. Just also, like quick do some B-roll.
Those shots were all filmed after everything wrapped up. I read.
Right.
Those shots were filmed at the end of the whole film.
So make them interesting.
Yeah, and also, you know, I don't know, maybe less time on the phone. I don't know. But so the next scene, they're in the cafeteria, and I want to say this gave me feels. Because this is exactly what I remember my high school cafeteria and my elementary school, middle school looking like, and picking up their lunch. And this scene, Blaine, do you want to talk about?
Oh my God. So we happen upon, it's lunchtime, everybody's in the cafeteria. JLC, Jude, and Kelly are talking, and they're talking about prom, of course, because it's the only thing anybody talks about in this goddamn movie. And so while they're getting their food, someone in a ski mask comes up to JLC, and it is quickly revealed to be Lou, but Lou basically assaults Kim and is like, will you go to prom meet now? And like forces himself on her. So and gross. Like, so there's this big, she makes a fuss, as she should, and Alex, her brother, sees it and immediately dives in to try and fight Lou, but is thrown off because he's just a baby. And so he gets into a fight with another guy, and it turns into this big cafeteria brawl. I don't know if it's the vice principal that breaks them up, and Lou and Alex, because Alex participated in the fight, even though he was just defending his sister who was fucking assaulted, which is not a word that existed in the 80s.
No.
So they are dragged to the principal's office, which is, of course, Alex's dad, Leslie Nielsen.
Did you wait for him to say, I'm serious and don't call me Shirley?
I wanted him to so bad.
I wanted him to say it
no,
so bad.
I was still like reeling from the fact that fucking Leslie Nielsen is in this movie. He does not belong. Like,
yeah, amazing.
So they go to the principal's office, and Leslie Nielsen, Lou starts talking and tries to explain himself, and Leslie Nielsen is like, so you think I'm going to take it easy on my son because he's my son? Well, you're right.
Yep. Thanks, Dad.
He's like, Lou, you've been nothing but a fucking menace. You've been screwing up way too much lately. You're suspended until further notice.
And now he can wax his eyebrows.
He still apparently gets to go to goddamn prom?
Yeah, I guess. I love that the amount of interior monologues continues. Jamie Lee Curtis and Nick are walking and talking, and she is talking about her sister and how she would have been, 16 or whatever, and she would have been here. And he is starting to crack, and you can tell that he wants to actually tell her, and he's like wants to apologize to her.
So I wrote in my notes, I just said, Wendy sucks so much, how long until she dies? Yes. She takes Lou to a drive-in restaurant and asks Lou, are you sure that you're serious? And he says, yeah, I hate that school and that whole fucking family. And she goes, I don't want anyone to get hurt. Well, not that badly. So earlier when Lou's getting carted off to the principal's office, she kind of like stops him as the first guy she sees after Nick rejects her and like asks him to prom, essentially. Yeah. So you get that they're like planning something, but again, they never really flesh out what they're planning.
Yeah.
Because and at least in Carrie, you see little like sprinklings of what exactly they're planning.
And at the end, you kind of get it, but at the same time, it's not very effective.
No, and Wendy at the end is like protesting it. She's like, no. Like I said, don't hurt anybody. And the whole thing's fucking weird. Yeah. And then it gets even worse because then we go back to gym class and there's this character named Vicky who quickly becomes the worst character in the film, including the murderer.
Yep.
And she moons Mr. Sykes. And I was just like, okay, I feel bad for him. But he's also like still kind of oogling her. So it's fucking weird.
But also, like, ma'am, you don't have a butt.
No, there's no butt. If Blaine showed me her butt, I'd be like, I'm about to skip this gym class right here. I thought I was going to see some fucking Fast Times at Ridgemont High tits. I did not. You did not.
The thing. So, the one thing I learned from Scream is that Jamie Lee Curtis never went tits until she went legit.
She never showed her tits until she went legit.
And so I was so ready for it because their tits were perky and they were primed, but no, we didn't see any titties in this fucking scene. And like Stephanie said, it was a major bummer.
Jamie Lee Curtis, JLC, is with Kelly, and they're in the locker room, and they're talking about her boyfriend and that she wants to get laid. And then you see Wendy. Wendy, yeah, exactly. Wendy's fucking around with her locker, and then she's like, "Who did this?" And her yearbook picture is in her locker, and she's like, "What's this about?" And so that's spooky. And then all of a sudden,
the lamest calling card.
Like, yeah, it's definitely like I appreciate you, Stephanie, because you were like, "So that's spooky," but it wasn't.
It's not.
It's spooky in the sense that this movie is not scary.
No, it's not. I would have thought that like the administration would have just put like photos in everybody's locker. Like
it's like if you're a murderer and you leave a Valentine-gram.
Right. It's a calling card. But like Wendy's doesn't even have a piece of glass attached to it.
No, because there's no glass.
Just a fucking picture. But as you were about to say, and I so rudely interrupted you.
Fuck no.
Go ahead, my love.
No. So you hear some insane noises, and someone has broken all the mirrors in the locker room. Yeah. And then Jamie Lee Curtis walks into the area where the glass is broken, wielding a hairbrush, because that will help. And so that's the end of that scene, and you're just like, okay. This is all broken, so someone's mad, I guess, at that we didn't show her tits yet.
Well, you see her in her bra, which is nice.
Yeah, she does. Yes. Oh, man. I mean, that bod.
I wrote, Kim is straight up leaves her locker room with the shirt undone, so that's some high school confidence for you.
Oh, fuck. Yep. I was that bitch wearing a t-shirt in middle school in the pool. We didn't talk about the prom practice.
How do they know that they're already king and queen? You vote on prom night.
I don't
know any of this stuff.
There's also this serious theme that is very creepy to me. They are, from the very beginning, treating this prom as a wedding.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, they call it a procession. There's a maid of honor. The dad walks the queen down the aisle. The brother, gives her the bouquet or whatever the fuck.
And the kiss.
So, as she's walking back to her locker, Kim hears Sykes cleaning up the locker room and gets really creeped out. And then, cut to, Jude finds her own senior picture in her locker with a shard of glass. Which is weird because we don't find a shard of glass in anybody else's senior photo.
No, because Kelly finds hers at the same time, and hers doesn't have glass, does it?
Exactly. But we learned that means absolutely nothing.
No, nothing does.
It's almost like just because it was I think for us it might be that train of knowing that so Wendy got hers first, then the glass broke, then June and Kelly got theirs with glass. Now,
Kelly did Kelly's have glass?
It had glass because she walked up and it was in her hand and she had it. But the interesting thing was then in this point also the lead up to them getting that are these this really slow meticulous scenes of walking through the hallway, and it's just like it takes away from it because like some of this really could have been shortened, but I mean it's a short movie, so it's not. I mean they had to fill space.
I wish they could have just made it an hour. Just make it an hour. You have an hour of content. Make it an hour. This is when I wrote in my notes for the first time, God, this movie is way too fucking long.
Yeah, it could have done without 20 minutes at least.
And then you like cut to the officers in the car, and like one of the officers has mutton chops, so I didn't listen to anything they said because I was just looking at his mutton chops.
No.
And then you cut to Wendy, who has a picture of Nick on her nightstand and then like a weird dummy of Nick in her bed. Did you guys see that?
Oh my God. Yes. The whole thing was so fucking weird. And what can't stand is there are no explanations in this movie for anything. You're supposed to think as a person watching this, and I assume as a person watching this in the 80s, yes, this is what I'm supposed to have in my room. This is how teenage life is.
Wait, guys, you don't have pictures of your stand-up mocks of your husband in your bedrooms?
Well, I mean, like I do, but I'm a witch.
No, that's true.
Like,
there's a part where Jamie Lee Curtis right after that is getting ready for the prom, and her lip. Now, wait, this is freaking weird to me.
The dark
Why
lipstick
did they make such a big deal about the lipstick? It doesn't play any part.
Well, there is a glimpse of it at the end, which we can talk about then. Yes.
Oh, okay. I think I know now.
Yeah. I wanted there to be like writing on a mirror or something.
Me too. That's what I was thinking. It's anything that makes sense is not sensical for this film.
They're also like dancing around the fact that they're on their way to like also a memorial for their daughter. Like it's like there's supposed to be a scene right before prom where the whole family is at the graveyard.
Okay.
So like there's supposed to be that moment. So that's why like the mom is so like
morose.
That moment is supposed to build to like why the mom is so upset because they're about to go and grieve their child.
She's not all there. Yeah, she's not all there.
No. And they even meant like the dad even mentions it again later, like, oh, Violet or whatever Vivian or whatever the mom's name is, was very upset because it's the anniversary of your sister's death or whatever. But like they don't really spell it out. They just kind of like
that's where and that's where there are supposed to be cut scenes where the mom was supposed to be made out to be this very distraught, very depressed person who was not herself and going through a very weird episode. And also JLC was supposed to be made out to be this person who goes through weird winds where her anxiety and her depression takes a hold of her, as well as Leslie Nielsen, where there's this weird period in the movie where he disappears, but that's okay for some reason.
I have a theory that they actually cut all these really interesting parts out to appeal to an audience of stoned teenagers.
Probably.
I feel like they did this intentionally because like all of those elements, like even if they had literally just left in the thing of like them going to her gravesite before the dance, that would be great.
Yeah.
Well, and, like, exactly. The movie initially, like the first version of the script, it was supposed to be a whodunit. So you were supposed to think, Oh, it was Jamie Lee Curtis because you were supposed to at one point see records of her going to a psychologist and having states of like fugue states where she didn't remember things. You were supposed to have a moment where the mother and father are talking about how they can't deal with the death of their daughter. And that's supposed to lead you to believe it was the father. There's supposed to be a moment where the mother like wakes up and like doesn't know where she is. And that's supposed to make you believe it's the mother. Like this was supposed to be a much better movie. And at the last minute, they're like, now let's make it bad.
Well, and then there's some awkwardness too, where the brother is with Jamie and she's getting ready. And there's this weird, like, they're not the twins.
No.
Right. So like he's like kind of like checking her out and he's like, you look almost like a woman, and it's just awkward, and it's like, why does everything have to be sort of sexual? They're brother sister, like and Nick is downstairs waiting for Jamie Lee Curtis to take her out to the prom, and he's staring at the photo of her sister like a lot. Yes. And I'm like, dude, okay, you're fucking guilty. Like, get over it. Like, just move on with your fucking life. And then there's the scene next where Wendy is, Blaine, what do you think about her outfit? Very different from Jamie Lee.
Let's talk about Wendy because, listen, she is a grade A bitch, but her look is without a doubt the hottest of them all.
Fuck yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
This dress, this hair.
The skin tone.
Attitude, she's smoking a cigarette. Like, I want to do her on the spot.
Oh,
like, it is
absolutely
crazy.
You know what? The grandma can even watch.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You just hear, like, Girl Like You playing in the background. Like, it's incredible.
Oh my gosh.
Like a tight, very tight, beautiful sequin dress with your hair just so perfectly coiffed. That seems very you.
I would have hoped only to achieve a level like that, but I probably would have had to wear so many Spanx to get into that shit that I would have exploded halfway through the night.
So the thing about this movie as well, you know, it's fun to like look at everybody's, you know, dresses and sizes and age and everything, but the thing that I try to keep in mind about this movie is you can practically sniff the cocaine in it.
I'm surprised there wasn't white powder on every scene of every tip of everyone's nose. I am surprised as fuck. This actually,
because everyone is rail thin. The music is crazy. The dancing is erratic.
At best,
so the music was actually made for this movie. They had like a disco music in, and they couldn't afford it. This is also when I was like, this movie is Grease meets Carrie meets I Know What You Did Last Summer, and all of the movies are better.
Oh yeah. And so Wendy is waiting for Lou, and he gets there and honks, and he's doing everything that a douchey Lou Ferrigno, fucking Andre the Giant kind of dude would do. And she goes outside. She goes outside. She's standing at the door of the car waiting for him to open the door. He's not going to do it. He has his goons. His goons are in the car, and she gets in first. Oh yeah, not dressed. He's like, my suit's in the trunk. He offers her whiskey and a smoke, and I'm like, hey, you know what? He's not a bad of a gentleman.
Whiskey from the bottle, though.
Oh, yep.
I mean, I would have taken it, but like on prom night, I
also
don't know
coronavirus.
Yes.
Coronavirus. They leave and he runs over her trash can like an ass. Yep. But again, then you span the empty hallways, the yearbook photo, the dark hallways for 5 minutes.
So, disco fever.
Oh.
So this fucking prom, first of all, we're expected to believe that all of these people are under the age of 30.
Yes. No.
And then also the wide shots were given. This prom is definitely attended by under 30 people.
Oh, this is an ill-attended event.
Yes. But it is, in the few number that are there, it is definitely a disco scene. So.
Well, and I want to know how many people figured out they had epilepsy during these scenes.
Right. I wrote in my notes, coordinated dance time. Good God, my prom was just awkward swaying and a rumor that Mike got a blowjob in the bathroom from Jessica.
Can we talk about Leslie Nielsen and JLC dancing, and why is the principal there, and why is there a father-daughter dance, and why?
So, and also, she is cool because she's being cool about it, and I wish that I had her amazing grace as a teenager.
Plum. Exactly the
honestly,
right word.
Though, if your dad is the principal, your date's dad is the chief of police who's casually at prom, your brother is the DJ, your mom is also a chaperone, it's on the anniversary of your sister's death, and you still go to prom?
So we have this disco dance number, which is basically prom king and queen doing this first dance as the wedding thing goes. Party. And it is all coordinated, and somehow the rest of the team just knows when to join in.
I also didn't get why that this was a thing, because they haven't done the whole prom. They haven't been crowned yet.
Yeah, there was
that comes later.
They just
somehow it had to have been announced and we missed it.
Can we also talk about how eventually Kelly and Drew not knowing what consent is? Also, just side note, I love that there's a murderer on the loose, and the lieutenant of the whole fucking town is like, "That's fine, I'm gonna go to prom."
Yeah, he's just
he's also just on the phone the entire time.
Right.
He's like you better find him.
Right, but back to prom. So anyway, so Kelly and Drew, I don't know why at this point in my notes I decided his name was Dean, probably because alcohol reasons.
Yeah.
But they're making out, and she's obviously very uncomfortable. But titties out. This is when you finally see titties.
Right before that, I just want to say, and I wanted to get your guys' take, she's in the bathroom right before that, and
yes, I'm so glad you did this.
And we see a lipstick on the counter of the bathroom, and that's just sitting there. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Oh shit. Well, not only that, I didn't notice that.
So we see that lipstick, which is what JLC's mom was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
But while they're in the bathroom, so all of the girls are there, and Kelly's talking about, so I might let him do it, and I'm really scared. And what does Vicky say? But hey, it'll be okay. It's just like a shot. No.
Wow.
He's just licking her neck like she's a freezer prop.
Yeah.
And then she says no. She says fucking no. And then he doesn't stop, which is great. And then this is the 5th time I wrote fuck the 80s, fuck the 80s. And then he goes, if you don't, I know plenty who will.
Yeah, he tries to get her to suck his dick and she won't.
Yeah. And I wrote, oh, fuck off, pencil dick. No one wants it anyway. And then he throws his little, what is it called? A male version of a corsage. Boutonniere. Thank you. He throws his boutonniere at her that's a fuck you. Fuck yourself. As if she's not having a bad enough night.
Oh,
she gets murdered with a shard of glass.
With her tits out.
With her tits out.
And she had nice tits.
The least likely person to have their tits out.
She had nice tits,
if she had the best tits. She had great tits. But
he
goes, now, Kelly, now. And then a very uncomfortable close-up of her face while he slits her throat, which is exhibit 1,000,000 in why this movie is not a goddamn slasher.
I will say that this scene, I actually appreciate the way that this movie was very low budget. So rather than doing the layers of fucking paper mache and ketchup, they just simply were we're going to go with the face, and then we're going to do the blood after the fact so that she gets her throat slashed. And I actually think it's elegant for having no budget. They tried to do it in a way that was real.
I think that it's good, but it's not a slasher.
It's very Suspiria, which isn't a slasher.
Yes. It's suspense. It's horror, but it is not an 80s slasher. And this if you talk with some people, they will hearken this as the slasher of all slashers. And you don't see a single fucking slash.
You don't see the only
one that you get close to is Jude. In order for it to be a slasher movie, you have to watch them die. You have to see the death happen. I've talked about this before, where I rate murders as they happen. That's a good moide, and that's a bad moide. You don't get to rate them. You don't see them.
So, and then we switch over to Kelly, and she's getting it on in the fuck truck with John Lovitz. Yeah. And she loses her virginity to him.
I mean, and hey, if he makes you happy,
he looks like Superbad, like Jonah Hill in Superbad, but and then her murder is annoying because I actually like her because she seems very genuine. and sweet.
Well, and they seem like to be the only couple that actually like gives a shit.
Yeah.
And like they actually like each other, regardless of how they met or whatever, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
Yes. So the killer is watching, so after Jude and Seymour fuck in his bang van, he gets out, Seymour gets out. Jude says, "Why don't we fuck on the bluffs?" And Seymour lights up as if that thought has never occurred to him. And he's like, "The bluffs?" So they go there, like they walk over because apparently it's only like 30 feet away and they hadn't thought of this before they parked the van. But like as they are getting ready to fuck on the bluffs, Seymour pulls Jude down on top of him, and I'm like, oh, so Seymour's a fucking bottom.
Right?
Because he's also the first one to be like, did you hear that? And Jude's like, no. And he's like, no, we should go back. And I'm like, really, you fucking bottom? Are you allowed to call the shots now? You want her
calling the shots?
Yeah.
Well, he was all talk when he was luring into his fucking van. And then you're going to be a bottom?
Honestly, what a way to lose your virginity and then get brutally assassinated.
Dude, not even assassinated. She was totally decapitated.
She was decapitated.
So I also do love her neck gets stabbed a bunch of times right after she says, "I'll remember this night for the rest of my life." A promise that she didn't know it would be so easy to keep.
Yep.
So this is the only death that I think would quantify as a slasher death, because you do actually see her die.
And then the fuck truck is a rockin', and as it drives off the cliff in the scuffle between the murderer and Jewish Elvis, it explodes prior to impact, obviously.
Yes.
And then I wrote,
van was stolen.
But the joints though.
Which that's honestly like $45 worth of weed. I wouldn't worry about it too much.
But honestly, more of the
I mean, like, who would know? But
right.
My guess is $35.
I just got sad because, again, this was the only character that felt like a human being beside Jamie Lee Curtis, because you just, like, love her. But, yeah, it was a bummer. And immediately, like, nothing happened. We switched back to more disco.
Also, that van was stolen by a stuntman. Like, that van...
It makes me so happy.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, like, that van was stolen for the film. Someone was like, I'll get the van, and showed up with it. And, like, no one checked to make sure it was kosher. And it was stolen. So Mr. Sykes is now getting drunk. And Wendy and her gang is, like, fucking scheming. And also, like, who applies mascara to their lower lash line during an event? Like, have you ever done that?
And also, who asks a stranger for mascara? You want to get an eye infection?
Yes, I literally wrote that in my notes. I was like, that's how you get your eyeballs sick, ma'am.
That's how you get that pink eye.
Yes. Oh my God, she's going to get so much pink eye. And then the lights flip off while Wendy's in the bathroom, and an axe wielding, which where he got the axe we will never know. The axe wielding murderer pursues her across the school, and he chases her into a classroom where they show the exact same fucking clip of him like walking slowly. That's used like fucking 6 times. It's the same clip.
It's a very long scene.
And then she like pulls a Titanic and like hides in a car.
Oh God, yeah.
Which I'm like, why? Why the fuck would you do that? Also, this entire time she's running away, I'm like, just go to the dance. Just go to the fucking dance.
And also, that murderer's got some nice leather shoes, which plays in later because you figure it out.
Some cute Chelsea boots.
And then again, this is a different weapon than the glass. And Regina George has the longest chase scene of the entire film.
Oh my God.
Which was torturous. And I just want this bitch to die.
And then you literally don't even get to see her get murdered. All that fucking build up. You have like 5, which there's also 15 minutes left in the film at this point.
Oh, it's
so you're waiting for her to get murdered. And
it's the body of Kelly that's in. Is it Kelly's body that's in?
I believe so. Yeah.
That's in the room with Wendy. Wendy's hiding in a closet, and I will say though
the janitor's closet.
The janitor's closet. The drama of just smudged makeup, I think, is great because look, they don't have a lot of money, but just the fact that you're seeing like, and as a woman, like we know when we're crying, we look like Marilyn Manson. You know, the drama of just that is cool. But then the way she dies is lackluster. Like, she dies
it's like the murderer has the grunt of a tennis player. And that's the point.
I'm thinking of My Bloody Valentine, which is a verified slasher, which is filmed or released only a year later, and that shows every single murder. And that backs up Emily to no end, that she's completely right. This is not a slasher.
No, I agree. I do not think this is a slasher at all. Then they tie up the escaped psychopath thing with one phone call. The cop's like, oh, you found him? Cool. Now I can go to prom. Because then the guy comes to talk to him. He's like, great, cop, why are you at prom? Go fight crime.
Exactly. And my dumbass was like, well, then they got it wrong and the killer's still here because there's no other way.
Oh my God, you're the best. Mr. Psych, he tries to warn everyone. He runs in and he's like, there's a killer on the loose. There's a killer on the loose. They're like, you crazy old bastard, walk it off. Which, it's apparently now the time to do Prom King and Queen, which, like, I thought that was what the huge choreographed dance was from early.
Right. I don't understand the whole idea of let's have a whole dance, let's have a whole celebration, and then at the end, with whoever the fuck is left and sober,
let's have a kiki.
Then we'll walk them out, and that's great.
By the way, this scene reminded me of Blaine only because Blaine is self-admittedly sweaty. And they said they have been dancing for arguably like 4.5 hours, and no one is sweaty.
Right? No one's sweaty.
No one's sweaty.
Like one of you said, like, who is doing their bottom mascara at an event where they're going to be dancing for 4 hours? Like, everybody's makeup should be at least down to their tits. Like,
mine would be on my foot.
Sense.
Okay, So Lou is plotting. Wendy is gone. Lou's like, I'm going to go. And him and his goons are like, okay, let's go do it. We don't know what the fuck they're going to do. We figure it out. They're lining up for the procession. Jamie Lee Curtis Kim is back there. And Nick is back there. And she's going to go out first with her crown. And he's going to come out after. Lou and his goons come up behind Nick. Knock him out. Tie him up. Put him in a corner. Lou takes the crown, and you're like, oh, so this was your goal, just to, like, you're going to be the prom king? In the shadow comes the killer, and the killer is confused and must believe that Lou is, in fact, Nick.
Right, because he's been established as prom king.
Right. And there is this, like, fucking Downton Abbey-esque music that begins to play for the reveal for the remaining 7 attendees, or as you would call them, high school colleagues. And the Lou's head is chopped the fuck off, and it rolls onto the stage as the killer has also chopped the main source of power, so the lights, the epileptic shock. The head of Lou is sitting on the stage like a Fashion Week roadkill, and it's just sitting there. And I actually think that because I was looking at that scene and I looked at his head, and I was like, no, you know what? It's so good. It's his actual head. It's got to be from under the stage. So,
absolutely. Well, and that's the only time his fucking face has ever fit in. Like, that only makes sense there.
Oh, and the killer's mask is glittery, by the way. And Jamie Lee Curtis goes back to find Nick, and now it's time to disco dance again.
It's fucking crazy. So, like, Kim goes to find Nick, frees him, and the killer is, like, waking up from his little electricity nap that he took. And then he's like, no, it's my turn. And the killer lunges at Nick, but Laurie Strode yeets a chair at him. Fucking yeets it. And then they all, like, wrestle together until Kim has the axe and then axes the killer's heads. And then disoriented, their eyes meet, and she's like, oh, fuck.
And yeah, she knows who it is.
She did that whole scene without a stunt double. But, shit. I like that information because, like, she's very amazing and she's a beautiful person with huge tits.
Oh, my God.
At the same time, like, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't that intense. It was kind of just like, that's like us fighting over, like, a bag of popcorn kind of fight.
Yeah.
You know? So it wasn't that. But yeah, amazing, though, still for her to do that. But yeah, she smacks the guy in the head.
After the whole awkward scuffle, that probably happens every day in some odd corner of New York City.
Yep. Pizza rat.
Disco and all. And
Pizza rat.
So the killer with the mask still on stumbles their way outdoors to where the entire crowd, like all the attendees of the disco prom, had drifted. There is an EMT out there, and so they're drifting and stumbling, and they have a head injury now, and so it's just a fucking weird fucking thing. So Kim and Nick follow out there. They're like trying to warn everybody, crowded around, and isn't paying attention. The killer drops and everybody notices and crowds around, and they, like, the cops have their guns drawn, and Kim runs out and she's like, don't shoot, like, leave him alone. And so she takes his mask off, and we see that it is Alex. And Alex, her brother, has lipstick on his lips, and he is crying. He is on his deathbed. He says that, hey, they killed Robin. Like, Robin's dead. Oh my God, Robin. And then he's dead in his sister's arms.
Finn. So then basically you see that he was the shadow on top of his sister when she died. Right. He was as a little boy, he saw it. So you're like, wait a minute. So you what? Just kept it all inside till now? So how many fucking what's the metric here?
Oh Jesus, shards of glass, probably.
How many
right?
shards of glass?
4 out of 10 shards of glass.
Okay.
Because this movie had a lot of potential, and it didn't use it. There's this really great missed psycho opportunity where Alex could have had like this twin telepathy thing with a dying sibling. He could have mercy killed Robin in that moment with a shard of glass. That would have been a much better movie if he was then grappling with that guilt for the rest of his life.
You guys, we need to write a movie. I'm telling you.
Oh, for sure.
There's so many missed opportunities. The juxtaposition of Wendy's relationship with Nick and her relationship with Kim could have been a movie all in its own, and it's lost. It gets some points for those pieces all being a part of the film, but 4 out of 10 for it not fulfilling any of the promises. Now, it is a cult classic, so
I'm giving it a 6.
Okay.
The reason is because my criteria for horror films are also films I can rewatch, and I could rewatch this. I could easily put this on in the background and rewatch this film. It may not be that interesting, but I enjoy the revenge element. And as Emily said, it's definitely not a slasher, but it is it's considered a slasher. Don't know why it's not a slasher. I think if this movie did not have Jamie Lee Curtis, would we watch it? Would it be interesting? I don't know.
Right.
The thing I enjoy about it is there is more psychological depth in this film than there are in I'm on like Friday the 13th 6, Jason Lives, and if you actually think about it, the complexities of the way that all these friendships evolve and the ways that like these people are keeping secrets, and it's traumatizing each of them in different ways. I mean, there's something there. And it's not fully formed, but it's like a baby bird. It's not ready to fly. And also I like it as an unintentional 80s, it's a period piece. The hair, the fashion, like, when we were talking about the dresses and the disco, even though they had the one song on repeat the whole movie, you can see it's the 80s in a little time capsule. And that's from the cars to the, what they're the drive-in, for food and the outfits. And I liked it for that reason. So I'll give it a 6.
So I am going to give it a 3.5. Because this movie had every opportunity to be a hit. Both beginning and end, because it could have been very formulaic and still been such a good fucking movie. There were many elements that were cut from it that shouldn't have been cut. The murderer element should not have been added to begin with. It tries to take great pride in being one of the first teen slasher movies when, as Emily has proven thus far, it is not a slasher movie. And if you really want to emulate a slasher movie at this point in time in history, you really just need to go no further than Tourist Trap.
Well, guys, I'm glad we covered this one. And I love you both, and you're delicate angels.
Protect trans kids. We love you.